Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 29th of October, comes to you from London. We had big falls in the markets yesterday, as we've been really saying ever since we topped and confirmed downside targets. And we'll take a look at the equity markets and what's been going on in a minute. We had the S&P down 3.5% last night, for example. But first of all, I want to look to crude oil and what this means for the whole energy mix. So we went out to bearish for our clients on Monday, and we're really seeing these falls kicking in on crude oil. The last 2 days, these big red candles. And the interesting thing is the concept now of the lower low. So we had the high, the lower high, and now today we're seeing the lower low. And this is coined by Charles Dow over 100 years ago, one of the oldest concepts of technical analysis, the Dow theory that goes with that. And if we just look at the Fibonacci retracements, because now we know that we've got the lower low, we've got a reversal. If you've done my training courses, you'll be aware of that. And the interesting thing now is where we look to. So if we unwind half this move, we come back to around $31. If we come back by the 61.8%, the magic golden ratio retracement, then we're looking at 27.60 as a target area for crude oil. We've got this downside target that's been here and hanging over us, $30, and another one at 35.50. Upside targets, this one that was there has been removed. That's bearish. Upside targets coming off the chart. Downside targets on the 60-minute chart, 35 and 36.80, and this one at 37.80 on the 1-minute chart. So that's really interesting for the crude mix. Before we look at the rest of the energy mix, let's just have a look at what's going on in the macro. So we look at currencies first. We see the dollar is continuing its rise. Increasingly, this is looking like a bottom. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, long-term, medium-term, and short-term view. I'm running on Refinitiv Icon here this morning, but you could be running on Bloomberg, Trayport, whatever data you want. We're compatible with dozens of different data services. And in fact, I run loads of different data services into my system. So it's just a case of which one you want to look at which time. So we're seeing here that the dollar looks like it's bottomed long term. We've still got to get back through the cloud, but short term we're bullish. That will also unwind some of these downside targets potentially. We're seeing the euro actually also just sinking away. And of course, by the way, if the dollar starts to rise, that will have an impact on commodities as well. As an inverse relationship between commodities and dollars, because most commodities are priced in dollars. If we look at sterling, we're sitting at 130 against the dollar, so holding on there. And against the euro, we're back nudging this 111 level. So we're seeing euro weakness really today, and this week generally we've seen sterling appreciating against the euro. Bitcoin's still holding the $13,000 level, so the cryptocurrency followers are very happy, making multi-year highs, and so Bitcoin looking very bullish indeed. But of course, the big story last night was equities. The S&P down 3.5%. Failure to make a second high, this lower high, and what we now have to watch for is a lower low. And this is looking like the worst week brewing for some time. If we look at the Nasdaq, we see we were down here about the same 3.5%, and we're just seeing bearish, bearish, bearish. We should not be surprised to see these falls. We're bearish below the short-term cloud. Failure to make a new high. We've got to watch, as we're seeing on crude already making that new low, we've got to watch here for a lower low. That's going to be absolutely critical as well. So here we see the level that we've just got to hold that low on the Nasdaq and on the S&P. New lows, and then that's a top, and we go into downtrend territory. And we're already seeing prices just coming below the daily cloud. So that's something we really do need to watch. Looking at the Dow, we were down 3.5% here as well. Daily cloud coming under pressure. We found support back in September, but not this time. So we really are seeing some quite negative signs. Of course, the downside potential for the markets, it was as much as 23%, but because we've fallen further, it's now just 20%. But we still do see a 20% further downside potential for the Nasdaq, and so that will have a big impact on markets. Now, the futures this morning are up. We're up 1% on the E-mini S&P, and we're up 1.3% on the Nasdaq. So that is a relief rally. It will be interesting to see how that plays out. The VIX volatility it did get us over the 40 level, and we've been saying for some time if the VIX closes above 30, that's the fear index in a bullish zone. This is the highest level we've seen the VIX since June, and so this is a real concern now for stocks. We're seeing that VIX growing. We've got upside targets. That one met. These ones at 39 been met. So interesting that those targets were given for the VIX volatility and they've been met. Now we're seeing the FTSE future up about 0.8% this morning. That relief rally there. Germany had a terrible day yesterday, and we're seeing the down week that we're seeing for the German market. We're clearly in bearish territory on the daily charts in Europe, and if we look at the CAC 40 in Paris, much the same thing, of course. And a weak start to the day, so really not managing to bounce back after those big falls. Japan was lower. It's in a bear trend on the short-term chart. China bucked the trend slightly, but it's still slowly deteriorating. So Chinese stocks slightly different. We're seeing the Sensex in India down 0.6%, struggling to make new highs, of course. And the Aussie market was pretty solid the day before yesterday, but today it just couldn't get up there. So we're seeing the Aussie market falling away quite heavily, down 1.6%. Still just holding the medium-term trend there. Gold is actually up this morning, only slightly. We are in a downtrend here as well, but the long-term charts are still holding their support levels. We just have to wait to see for the break on gold, but the long-term position is still looking pretty good. And silver was down 1%. US 10-year yields have been a feature of late, and we're seeing here that we're up 0.78% today. At 0.78% is the yield level, but we are gradually still trending up, although we've had a bit of a pullback this week. Just looking at some of the tech majors while we're here. We've got Apple, that's not yet making a lower low, but looking pretty bearish. Downside potential of 6% short term, 27% downside on those medium and long term charts. Amazon, we're also seeing downside potential of around 20%, 19% downside on two different charts there, 5% and 12% at the shorter term levels. So we're seeing a lot of these stars just starting to look quite bearish. We're seeing downside potential here on Microsoft, some 22%. That's in line with the market. And Facebook also looking lower. They were off 5% yesterday, so really badly hit there. Just holding up a little bit better. The downside target's not so clear, but on the whole, the tech giants, the FANG stocks, starting to crack. We talked about Brent Crude, of course. So that's really key. We're in the 30s now. WTI sitting at 36.50. We are just going to hit lower. 36.50 was given as a target 2 days ago. That's where we're given it at 39. That's where we are now. You ignore these targets at your peril. The one area that has been outstanding has been US nat gas. We've rolled to a new contract here, and we are looking very bullish, sitting at now at $3.24. We're looking at RBOB this morning. That's down, falling with crude, of course, making that lower low as well. Very similar picture to crude oil. We're seeing targets some 2% lower on the short-term chart, and then 13-14% lower on the longer-term chart. Coal is down 0.7%, and so we're seeing here a weakness as well. Just breaking, failed to make that new high, so that's a failure top there. We're looking now to come back to this level around 53.80. We've got downside targets 55 and 54. Emissions is a standout this morning. That's recovering. But the fact that we made the lower low yesterday is bad for emissions. So we do have downside potential of 22.10, around that 22 mark, and then longer term 20. Until we can break above this 25.50 level on emissions, that's really key. And if we look at those key levels there, that's what we've got to do, is just get back above those levels on the emissions chart. Looking at MBP, that's down this morning, but the trend is still up on the front month contract. TTF, much the same. We are actually just falling away here a little bit on the contract, so we are looking a little bit lower there. And at winter gas, we are seeing also just falling away. So markets really taking a battering. And if we look at Gazpool, we're also seeing that sell-off, still holding the trend, but pretty much lower. German power sitting at 37.50. That 40 euro level that we talked about is way gone, and 39 was the next level of support. That's been broken. We've got downside targets now to 36.55, 35.85, 35. It really looks like German power's got much lower to go, and the same with the quarterly contract, and we've been pretty bearish on the pound markets for now for a while. French power has been the ugly duckling, and that's looking lower as well, just falling away. Downside potential still some 10% lower, so we have got really big downside moves there. If we look just quickly at Nordic power, that's making new lows as well, not seen since April, so that's bad for the price, and we've got downside targets there, some 8% lower, and also on the quarterly contract falling away quite heavily as well. And last of all, UK power, it's falling but not as heavily, but we do have downside potential. Looks like we've topped here and we're falling away. This is on the seasonal contract. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.